Hello everyone, welcome back. Today we're looking at whether or not a vintage guitar is worth the exorbitant price tag it often comes with. But before we get into it, I want to let you guys know that I've just released a brand new merch line. You can get a sweater or t-shirt of the Guitar Playing Samurai silhouette over at www.shopsamuraiguitarist.com. But anyways, to carry out this experiment today, I've got an all-original 1963 Fender Sunburst Stratocaster. To many, this is the holy grail of guitars. I've seen them sold for upwards of $35,000, especially when they're in as great shape as this one. I'm going to be comparing it against a 2015 Fender Custom Shop reissue of a 1960 Stratocaster in Sonic Blue. It's also a great guitar. This specific one was bought by a friend for $3,500 a few years ago. I'm going to start things off by doing a little demo with each of them. I'll share some of my thoughts and then do a longer comparison with a variety of sounds. To kick it off, let's check out the reissue. Beautiful sounding guitar and a treat to play. Now I'm going to play something similar with the vintage instrument. Also a beautiful sounding guitar, also a treat to play. Let's talk a little bit more about each of these instruments. My friend Tom was able to score the reissue Strat for $3,500. Typically these guitars go for more, but he was able to snag a pretty decent deal. I borrowed the vintage Strat off my friend James, who's had it in his family since it was new. His uncle bought it in 1964, and soon after his dad bought it off his uncle for $150, which is about $800 in today's money. His dad played it a bit, but for the most part it sat in a closet for about 50 years. Until a couple years ago, it was given to my friend James as a gift, and now it stays in its case and comes out on the rare special occasion. It's in about as good shape as a guitar this old will get. There's a couple scratches here and there, and it's got some belt buckle rash, but nothing more than cosmetics. Even the frets have minimal wear. In 1965, CBS bought Fender and started focusing more on making as much money as possible versus making the best guitar possible. Any pre-CBS Strat like this one is an absolute treat to play, and one in this good shape is a collector's dream. The price of vintage stuff can be a bit hard to gauge, but I've seen ones in similar shape sell for over $35,000. Now let's talk about comparing them a bit. This is not a perfect experiment to begin with. This Strat is built to the specifications of a guitar from 1960, while this one is from 1963. I'm not sure what the exact differences are, and Google didn't turn up a ton either. All I can speak on is what I can observe, and as far as I can tell, there aren't any obvious discrepancies. The necks seem identical. They're both made of rosewood. They're both thinner closer to the headstock and get thicker closer to the body. As far as I can tell, the reissue Strat just feels like a newer version of the vintage Strat, which makes sense. Fender calls this new old stock. But that also brings up something worth mentioning in our comparison. The vintage Strat has aged over 56 years, whereas the reissue is only 4 years old. You can buy relic Strats that artificially age a guitar so that they seem like this one. This guitar is not one of them. Again, not a perfect experiment, but I think it's interesting nonetheless. So here are some of my thoughts. I've spent a fair bit of time with both of these instruments. I really love both of them. They are both great guitars. But there's something about the original 63 that stands out, even compared to relic ones I've used. I've played one of these before and I had the exact same feeling. Everything about it is just a little bit better. Maybe it's because it feels like you're holding part of history. Maybe it's because nothing can age wood like half a century. Or maybe it's the placebo effect, but that's just how I feel. Playing wise, they both play great. I put D'Addario 10s on both of them and set them up just the way I like. But the vintage Strat really stands out in this respect. It's hard to explain, but I feel like the vintage guitar almost plays itself. It's effortless, smooth, buttery, whatever adjectives you want to use. That's not to say that the reissue isn't also great, but it doesn't leave me wishing that every other guitar I played was like it. Whereas the 63 makes me feel like that. Now, as far as the sound goes, I'm going to do another demo where I go back and forth between each guitar using a variety of sounds, switching between different pickup settings, so you guys can hear it for yourself. me, the clean sound is nearly identical. I don't think I could tell the difference in a blind test, but with a bit of crunch or some heavy fuzz, I hear something in the vintage Strat that I don't hear in the reissue. I can't really explain it, but I definitely do prefer it. So having said all that, back to the original question, is a vintage guitar worth the hefty price tag? It's 10 times as much for a close to identical guitar, and that is a lot of money. The rational part of me says that I could never justify spending that much, but the other part of me that knows anytime I pick up a Strat from now on, I'm going to be thinking about that one, and that part of me wants to start selling everything I own so I can buy one. The problem I have though is I'm a guitar player, not a collector. I don't see an instrument as an investment, and I don't want to put it in a glass case. I want to play it. If I had a guitar worth $35,000, I'd be scared to use it like I do my other instruments. My Tele, for example, is dinged up and beat down, and I like that about it. I quite enjoy putting my own battle wounds into it. I've dropped it countless times, I've smacked it into things. One time it was knocked off its stand by some drunk girl who stumbled on stage, and that's part of its charm. With a guitar worth significantly more than my car, I would treat it differently, and I don't really want that. On top of that, I like to customize my guitars as I see fit. There are things on both of these guitars that I would like to change. For example, there's a 3-way pickup selector that they used to use back in the day that I would swap out for a 5-way selector. I prefer jumbo frets over the normal one, so I would have both of them refretted. I would have no problem doing those things to the reissue, even though it's an expensive custom shop guitar. However, I would never do that to the vintage guitar out of fear of decreasing its value. I mean, even just tweaking the saddles gave me a bit of anxiety. If I own both of these guitars, I would happily play the custom shop every day, whereas the 63 would probably only come out on special occasions, and that's not really the relationship I want with a guitar. Now, there are some people who would be totally fine with that. They might see this guitar as something that will appreciate in value over the years, and to them, investing in it now is totally worthwhile. So to summarize, which of these guitars would I be more likely to own in my life? Definitely the reissue. However, let's say I somehow came to own a vintage guitar like this one. Even if somebody offered me significantly more than fair market price, I definitely wouldn't sell it. That about wraps it up for today. Let me know what you guys think in the comments section. I also want to remind you that I've just released my 2019 spring merch line. You can get the guitar playing samurai silhouette design on a sweater or t-shirt over at www.shopsamuraiguitarist.com. They're available in a variety of sizes and colors, and they ship all around the world. Thank you all for watching, and a big shout out to my friends Tom and James for lending me these two beauties. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button and stay tuned for regular music content. If you want to watch another video like this one, hit that link up there. I'm Samurai Guitarist, and I will see you again soon.